Welcome to this James the Bike Guy, where today what we're going to go ahead and do is check out a brand new bike from Trek, their new Trek Roscoe. This thing's totally refreshed and different, and I think it might answer a whole bunch of the complaints that people have had about the previous bike. And while I might be wearing the band t-shirt to the concert, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts down below. So in this video, we're going to do a quick overview of the new bikes, and then we're going to break it down by the Roscoe 6, 7, 8, and 9, the brand new 9 for 2022, to check out all the specs. So let's go ahead and jump to my computer, and we'll check it out together. I'm on Pink Bike right now, and this thing, woo, does it look good. This is a pretty cool looking new bike. As you can tell, it is long and slack. And in fact, that's going to be sort of the whole talk about this new bike. So if we jump in here, we can see this new Roscoe. This happens to be the Roscoe 9, the top of the tier. But let's talk about some of the things that are brand new for this year. And this is where I think, in a lot of cases, might be solving some of the problems we've had before. So get this. This bike's going to have a 65-degree head tube angle. It's going to have a 73-degree seat tube angle. It's going to have 45 millimeters of additional reach in the cockpit of the bike on average from the previous generation, and 29-inch wheels. So that's right. This thing has jumped into the 29er game. All bikes except for the size extra small are running 29s instead. And except for the Roscoe 6. We'll talk about that more, but Roscoe 6 is actually a carryover from the previous year. So 7, 8, and 9 are these new bikes. So in this picture, we're checking out 9. So you can see here, lots of room for a dropper post, way longer reach, much more progressive. That 65-degree head tube angle is pretty slack. And then I love to see these 29s. Actually, guys, I just forgot to say one other thing. It's through axle. That's pretty big for this year. So back into it. Now, if we go, this is going to be our Roscoe 7. Personally, this is my favorite looking one of these bikes. Good looking bike. And so you're getting a lot of features that are really going to help it be much more mountain bikey. So it's running internal cable routing. I think it's using the Control Freak system. I'm not totally sure, but I'll show you why I think that later on. We're through axle, boost, front and rear. This bike's running the 35. It's 140 millimeters of suspension travel up front. And that is up from the previous gen was 120. So not only are you getting these more slack angles, you're also getting the longer length fork, which is nice to see. Just through some of these pictures, it is pretty cool. So Bike Rumor's got some cool information. We'll get rid of that shoe there. A couple of things they're talking, just like we were saying before. Sports modern trail geometry, longer, lower, slacker. You get the point. You get the point. I mean, this bike used to be more of a entry level into that mid-level bike where it had conservative geometry, which kind of kept it from being a real rowdy mountain bike, but it allowed entry-level riders to get into it, just like my wife with her Roscoe 6 behind us. And that's why I really like that the 2021 is actually a carryover. So it's the same bike. So the 2021 version of this bike, it's actually going to be the same as the new 2022. So as you can jump in, you'll see that Roscoe 6, that's the same bike. They're carrying it over. And I think that's a pretty nice feature because those older geometries, they really allowed for a bit better setup for somebody just getting into the bike. And part of the reason I say that is when we get to these really slack head tube angles, really steep seat tube angles, is rotating the rider a little bit further forward. And when doing so, it's making the bike a bit more aggressive. And that's going to make it not nearly as comfortable or as fun for that entry to intermediate rider, but it's going to really expand the capabilities that the bike's going to do. So by slackening the front end, steepening the seat tube angle, whole body rotates forward, wheelbase gets a little longer, front end gets slacker, which means it's going to get a lot more stable. And in doing so, it's going to make the bike way more fun at high speeds, but maybe a little less fun at low speeds, or at least that's my personal take on the situation. Now, I'm sure I'll get some comments down below telling me I'm wrong, and you know what? That's why we all have opinions and we get things to see. But, here on screen, we're checking out that Roscoe 7, and she's a beaut. So back to checking this out. So new thing going on. We'll talk about this a little more, but SRAM's universal derailleur hanger, you're seeing this on a lot of bikes. It's pretty cool. I'll show you some of this later on in the video. Things like threaded bottom brackets are all part of this new bike. And I don't know. I think it's pretty sick. So talking about Geo for a second, a couple of things to bring up. We'll actually bring up the old bike for a moment. So geometry of the bike, way more progressive. So if I bring up these two bikes, we'll check Roscoe 6 and Roscoe 7. What we're going to see here is checking out a size medium-large. We've got a head angle of 67.3 on the old bike and a seat tube angle of 69.6. You know, reasonably progressive geometry, but keep in mind the old version of the Roscoe and the new Roscoe 6. They share the same frame with Trek's Excalibur series. Excal is their XC race bike. And so basically they're getting slacker on that bike by long travel on the fork. So Roscoe's in previous gen were 120 mil travel, and that Excal was 100. So by bumping the fork, that's what got us the slacker angles. It also increased the stack and shortened the reach, which ended up working out pretty well. But if you look at Roscoe 7, this is where the new bike is way more progressive. So new bike, 65 head degree angle, all bikes, pretty cool. Even the 27.5 on the extra small. And then we're talking a seat tube angle of 73.1 or effective of 74.7. So basically that's pretty steep. Not the steepest out there, but it's pretty steep. And that's going to give you a good pedaling position. It's going to make it pretty cool, but look at that reach. So frame reach is 445 millimeters and frame stack is 63.9. So frame reach is bottom bracket up straight across the head tube, that's reach. And then stack is bottom bracket out, height to top of head tube. That's your stack. And if we check that out, so 45.5, 63.9, go back to the Roscoe 6, you'll see that's 41 centimeters, so that's 410 millimeters, so right at that 45 millimeters of extra reach virtually, and then a stack of 61.5 versus 63.9. So interesting, stack gets taller too. Now that would stand to reason because our fork is now up to 140 millimeters of travel. So we're getting a lot of extra travel in the front end, we're getting some extra reach, a lot slacker head tube, and a steeper seat tube. Only thing I'm really concerned about, so we're 1,126 millimeters of wheelbase on the old bike, and the new one is 1,198. So yeah, the wheelbase is extending. I mean, it has to happen. You slacken out and throw that front end out, you extend the reach. There's only so much you can do except for extend the wheelbase. So it's going to be a bit more bike throughout the trail. And in fact, chainstay length is 43 on the new bike, and chainstay length on the old bike is 43.8. So they pulled off a fair amount of chainstay length. So that's pretty cool. Well, anyways, going through things to mention. So 6 stays the same, 7 and 8 get nicely upgraded. 8 is kind of a sweet spot in my opinion. I'll show you why later. And then 9 is new for this year with a Fox 36. And enough of me yammering. Let's go ahead and check out these Roscoe models. So let's check out Roscoe 6 real quick. So at the time of recording this on the 29th of July, that's when it is. Roscoe 6, 1149. This bike is unchanged from 2021. So checking it out, you've got the SR Suntour fork, you've got the standard Geo, a 1x10 from Shimano, the Deore setup, kind of run-of-the-mill, not too much to talk about here. It's a really cool bike, so much so I spent my own hard-earned money on it. But neat bike, been around for a couple of years now. So hot take that people may or may not have known just because we're chatting about it, but the Roscoe 6, it actually shares the frame with the Excalibur, which makes me kind of wonder, I don't know this to be the case, but does the Excal get the new Roscoe frame? That would be cool. Let's talk Roscoe 7. So Roscoe 7, pretty neat. This is going to be the 140 millimeter suspension travel. Let's check out some other things here. So Recon Silver RL, decent fork. Not the world's best, but a decent fork. You've got some Shimano hubs. Love to see that when it's not just a generic hub on a bike. Line 30 rims, which the Line 30 rim, good rim, works well. I have it on one of my own bikes. Looks nice. Interesting thing to see here. It's a 29 by 2.6. We knew that for the frame, max tire size. But that's interesting. So the extra small on this bike is still going to 27.5 inch. Curious to see. Not really surprised. I mean, Trek's doing that with most of their bikes like this. They do the smart wheel size. Usually it's extra small, but in this case, it's only extra small. So that's kind of neat. Going through what's some other stuff. So 12 speed. Great. Trans-X dropper. It's got the Shimano MT200 Hydros and a claimed weight of 30.8 pounds. That's not too bad. So let's take a look. So at the time of recording this, $16.99, so about $1,700. Got that RockShox 35 up. Is that a 35 or what did we see that? No, that's right. That's a Recon Silver. It's not quite a 35. Still an okay fork. But I am liking what I'm seeing here. Love to see the Deore 12 speed. Love that it's a full Deore drivetrain, internal cable routing. Actually, I really like this color too. That's pretty hot. XR4 team issue tires. Trans-X dropper for a cheap dropper post. These are pretty good. You've seen these in a bunch of my videos. From my experience, or at least hearing it, is pretty good. Now, quick thing. So, we can't quite zoom in. So you can't see it here, but check out where my mouse is going. That looks like it's got their Control Freak cable routing. Let's zoom out and see if that's true. Do they list that in the features? They got a lot of features they're claiming. Oh, great. ISCG mount, so bash guards, those kind of things. Threaded bottom bracket, no real surprise there. It is an aluminum bike. Everyone's going that way. I could make a video on my own about how I think that's, I don't know, I feel like that's something overblown, but let's yell at me in the comments down below for that. So going through, what are we checking out? Line 30, we've got that. We got the Recon Silver. Good looking front end of the bike. I like it. Man, through axle, finally. So I've talked about this for a little while, but in my opinion, lower level mountain bikes are worse off with a through axle. I guess worse off might be the wrong way of saying it, but what I'm meaning by that is most entry level mountain bikers are not going to get the difference between a through axle and a quick release. And a through axle actually costs a lot more. So the dropouts are different. The hubs are more expensive. You've got the through axle to add to the bike. It makes all those parts more expensive. And what can often happen is it makes a bike, $50, $100 more to add a through axle than a quick release. And when you're talking about a bike that's right at that $1,000 mark, that could be the difference between being $1,000 and $1,100. And that's a lot of money, especially when it's not going to have a huge benefit. But in this case, because the bikes are getting so dang rowdy, I think that's worth it. That's going to be good. This is the type of riding bike that I could see a whole bunch of people kind of getting into as a secondary true trail bike. Well, anyways, let's talk about this. So Roscoe 8, $2,299. So we're starting to get into some serious money here. That's full suspension money at this point. Still 29er. Yep, down tube guard. It's kind of cool, progressive trail geometry. We talked about all that. Going through, what else do we have here? So RockShox 35 gold. Really good fork for the money. I've had it before. I've ridden on it. It's a great fork for the money. That one retails, I think, about $500 on its own. So that's about right on a $2,200 bike. I didn't notice that before. So max compatible fork travel. So it comes with a 140. but they're saying you can go up to 150 millimeters of travel. Pretty cool. So let's keep going through. Bontrager Line 30 wheels, baller set of wheels. Really good. I know a bunch of YouTubers have shown it. I've done a million videos on it. About one of the best bang for the money mountain bike wheels available. That rapid drive hub is sick, and in fact, this is the 108 tooth. So they're not even sticking you with the cheaper 54 tooth, where you then have to upgrade it. This is 108. I'm happy with that. All right, so let's keep going. XR4 team issue, tubeless ready. Oh, this is one other thing. So I believe when I was reading some of the other things, these bikes are not shipping tube. These are tubeless ready out of the box. I don't know if that'll be true when it comes, but if you look here, it's speccing tire sealant and TLR valves in the spec sheet. So if that's not tubeless ready, don't know what else is. I think that is. So NX Eagle 12 speed with a GX Eagle rear derailleur. You've got a SRAM X1 Eagle crank. So if you're not familiar, X1 is typically the non-branded crank. So an X1 means it's going to be most of the technology of the GX style crank, but it's not going to be quite a GX crank. Some of the finishing, that kind of stuff's not going to happen, but SRAM does this all the time. It gives a little bit better spec for the money. And then if we jump back, we can see here we've got dub bottom bracket, of course threaded, PG 1230 cassette, a little bit of a boat anchor, but shifts, works fine. No big deal, a little bit heavy, but whatever. It comes with the spec. 150 mil dropper post on medium large and bigger, 100 on the smaller bikes. That's good. That's nice to see. I've gotten some feedback in some of my videos that people don't like that Trek doesn't typically make different dropper sizes for each frame size. It's hard to explain, but from a manufacturing aspect, or rather a supply chain aspect, it's pretty hard to do that, and it's costly. And these guys pump out a lot of bikes, so it's nice to see that they're at least splitting it where half the sizes are longer and half are shorter. So that's fine. Standard alloy 31.8 handlebar. It's fine. Nothing too much. This is cool though. It's going to the 4-piston MT 4100 levers with the 420 calipers. This is, say, a baby Deore disc brake setup. 4-piston, that's going to be nice. And yeah, there you go. With TLR sealant, no tubes, claiming to be under 30 pounds. I cannot wait to get my grimy mitts on this because personally, we haven't seen the 8 yet, or excuse me, the 9 yet. The 8 at $2,300 is feeling like the business. And that is a dang gorgeous bike. Whew, like to see that. That X1 crank looks good on the bike. Yeah, I like that frame, line 30s. And this is hard to argue with. I'm pretty psyched. Yeah, you can see those Shimano brakes hanging out there. That's that 4-piston caliper. Crankset, double water bottle mounts. No real surprise, but nice to see. Cool bike. And actually, let's check out that other color. That blue is the kind of thing that would get me to get it. I don't know, man. That's pretty. That's a good looking bike. It really is. Wow, cool. So we've just spent some time gushing over that. It is time for the cream of the crop, or so they're specking it, a Roscoe 9. So Roscoe 9, $26.99, at least at the time of this video. Badass looking color, very, very good looking bike. So yeah, we should check out the spec. The killer thing here, I've looked at this a little bit. This bike it's going to have pretty nice spec. You've got a Fox 36 up front. You've got all the bells and whistles. $26.99 is a ton of money, especially on a hardtail. But keep in mind, $26.99, that's putting you into still an entry-level full suspension. And actually, some brands right now with the pandemic, you're not even in a full suspension. So I'm pretty psyched about this. So let's jump in here. 140 mil fork. All this stuff we've seen before. Fox Rhythm 36. So the Fox Rhythm fork, this is basically the lower priced or the more spec level of their 36 float fork that they have. This is still running Evolve air spring, it says, grip damper, which is good damper, 44 mil offset. I'm happy about this. That is great. Let's look as we go through. Still line 30s, tubeless ready, rapid drive 108 hubs. Again, very good stuff. Same tires, XR4s, ran those on my fuel for a long time. I'd buy them again if they came in gumwall, just because I'm that kind of guy, I guess. And yeah, so Shimano M7100 shifter. This is the SLX shifter. We've got XT 8100 rear derailleur. So the 8100 XT derailleur is a very nice setup, and I love the fact they're running a third party for the crankset. Most of the time, I prefer when the cranksets are the same as the rest of the drivetrain, but there's a few exceptions. On a 1x bike, it's not nearly as necessary because most of the shifting issues that come from a bike are usually from the front derailleur. But in this case, no front derailleur, so no problem. Other thing is, when they use super high quality brands, like you come across Praxis Works a lot, or E13, those are likely as good or better than what you would get otherwise. So personally, I'm pretty happy with that. That's good. That Helix crank should be nice. I bet that saves a little bit of weight too. I'm not certain, but I would suspect. Deore M7100 cassette. It's funny, they're doing that whole, I got an XT derailleur, everything else is SLX. Whatever. It's fine. It's a place to upgrade. Having a cool derailleur sells bikes. It is nicer to have, but a full SLX drivetrain would have been fine on here. Deore chain, no surprise. Everyone specs cheap chains. This is cool though. Look at that. So we were just talking about dropper posts before. Boom, we've got 100 mil dropper, 130 on mediums, and then medium large and larger is going to be 150. Interesting to note though, you see this bike doesn't have a size extra small. So does that mean in Roscoe 9 doesn't come in an extra small? Small or larger, so no 27.5 extra small Roscoe. Interesting. Going through stem, whatever, Bontrager Elite, it's nicer, it's 35 millimeters. That's good to see. 35 meaning the bar clamp, it's telling you small is a 35 length. Medium larger is 45. Brakes, M6100 brakes, or M6120, I guess, because it's the 4-piston. So really what that means is we've got Deore brakes. So this is a bit of a mix match. You've got Deore brakes, Deore chain, you've got SLX cassette, and shifter XT derailleur. Somebody's getting at mixing it to be the best that they can. And finally, weight. 28 pounds. Pretty cool. 300-pound rider maximum weight limit, so I got some growing room to ride this bike. I think it's time to check out these pictures. So, it's hard to explain, but so this is that new, I think it's SRAM that's doing this, but the universal rear derailleur. It's kind of hot on a lot of bikes right now, and I love that it's in there. It makes for such a clean look. I personally started seeing this on some of the Specialized bikes first, then I saw a bunch of other brands starting to do it. It's going to make buying derailleur hangers way easier in the future. Just one of those things that needed to happen. So that's cool, but also aesthetically, I think it looks real nice. Helix crankset, baller crank. That is great to see. You can see the little ISCG tab sticking out there. It's running a chain guide up top. Nice to see. Internal routing, mostly the same pictures on all of these, so that's a little bit of a bummer. Still running the Arvada, which is arguably not the most comfortable saddle, but hey, to each their own. Got that Rhythm 36 fork. That's really what you're paying the money for here. A lot of the specs are similar to the other bike. This gives a clearer picture to that's really what you're paying the money for. This picture also gives a clearer picture of that control freak cable routing. This is a cool port. If you watch one of my videos on running cables in the Trek Fuel line or Fuel EX line, that's good stuff. Yeah, you got that rear brake. Man, I'm pumped about this. I hope you guys are too. So on that topic, go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm really curious what you think about this. I know I've just gone through, gosh, this is kind of a first look. I did look at a little bit before running the camera. But personally, I'm feeling good about this. I like what they're doing. It's really nice to see that they've brought the modern Geo to the bike. I love the fact they keep the Roscoe 6 because that bike really served a purpose for a bunch of budding riders, and we want to get people riding bikes and stoked. And then past that, I mean, adding the Roscoe 9 with a Fox 36, that's pretty cool. I think that's going to get some people psyched. So, I mean, this is going up hard against some of the other brands out there that have these long and slack bikes. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. While you're at it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, and can't wait to see you in the next video where we'll have a real bike and we'll check it out together. So have a great night.